So hi everyone, my name is Dimitris Togias, and today I'm gonna talk about Instacar's journey from migrating to our website from Drupal to Nuxt and Cloudflare Workers. A little bit about myself. I'm a mechanical engineering. Initially in my career, I was involved with robotics, but at some point I switched fully to software development. And I've been doing that partly as a software engineer and partly as a manager for the last 20 years. For the agenda for today's presentation, I'm going to give you some introduction on what Instacar is doing and how and what is our tech stack. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about Cloudflare, and I will dive into the details of what we had initially for our website and how we transition gradually to our existing solution. Now, so what is Instacar? Instacar was founded in 2019. We call ourselves a startup or a scale-up. We are involved in the flexible business, in the flexible leasing business. So compared to traditional leasing, which is like a closed contract for 3 or 4 years for a specific vehicle, example, a car. In our case, you have the option of selecting a vehicle, paying it as if it was every month. You can switch cars at any moment, and also you can cancel your subscription. Those two things alone provide the flexibility, what we call flexible leasing. Diving into more details about Instacar, we consider ourselves the first fully digitized leasing company in Greece. We have created a mobile application which we call InstaDriver. This mobile application, for now, it's only for our customers, but we plan on extending them to all users in Greece. And our focus is mainly, we consider for us, customers come first, and we try to emphasize more on customer satisfaction, and that is the main reason that we have such highly reviews in Google. What we aim to do, our main goal is actually to try and change the mobility scenery in Greece. How we do that, we plan on putting an Instacar, provide an Instacar card to every customer in Greece. And that alone means also that we want everyone to be an InstaDriver. The InstaDriver application, just to clarify a little bit more, we plan on creating what we call a marketplace for vehicles. And that means that even if you are not a customer of our leasing business, you will be able to use the mobile app, for example, to book for a car wash or to book your next service through us. Now, as you can see from here, although we are relatively new, we are managing to grow our business and our fleet, almost double it every year from 2021. And currently in 2024, we sit a little bit over 5,000 vehicles. And that number is growing fast for us. Now, moving along a little bit about our tech stack, the tech stack of Instacar, we have around 18 people in our tech team at the moment. We have 2 teams, the backend and front end, and we have also a mobile team, which is not present here because it was not relevant. On the backend, we use Golang. We have a monolithic code base from where we are able to create 1 or 2 microservices. And we are also using Laravel. Laravel, for those of you who don't know, it's a PHP framework, similar to Django or to Spring Boot in Java. That it was initially created by the team or the people that were before we started hiring and creating an internal tech engineering team. And currently, we are trying to migrate away from Laravel.
Now, on the front end, we have a similar situation. We currently support Nuxt.js with Vue, and we also have we are also building our new applications using React and Next.js. The main reason that I mentioned our tech stack is to be able to understand what we are doing and why we made some decisions in the next slides. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, I will show you how we migrated our existing website to Cloudflare, to Nuxt and to Cloudflare Workers. For those of you who don't know what Cloudflare is, Cloudflare began as a CDN and DNS service. It is not an advertisement for Cloudflare, but I consider it one of the best services out there. So initially, they started as a DNS service and CDN service. The last couple of years, they are expanding their what they call multiple cloud services. They have included the Workers, which is similar to AWS, Amazon Lambdas. They included Pages, Zero Trust, which is around security. It can replace easily a VPN connection. And they also have a number of modules to increase your website security, like WAF rules, firewall rules, rate limiting, and other things as well. One of the things that they have included also the last couple of years is what we call computing at the edge. Basically, each cloud provider provides the ability to deploy your services as near as possible to your end users, meaning that they have specific, I can call it cloud data centers in each country. So this makes it possible to deploy your system as close as possible to your end users. To my personal opinion, that the way that Cloudflare is approaching the cloud services is that they have created something that is quite simpler to use. It's much more understandable, and it's easier to deploy and to maintain. At the same time, for me, from what I have seen, I have worked with over the years, it's one that it's really cost effective. Meaning that, for example, Lambdas, the cost is pretty lower than AWS or Azure or Cloud or Google Cloud. Now, moving on a little bit more details on what we do or what we had initially in Instacar and how we moved on to Nuxt and Cloudflare. So back in 2019, there was some external developers that created the first website for us. That first website was created using Drupal. And the main reason was not that it was superior to WordPress or any other CMS solution back then, but the main reason was that the external developer back then had some internal knowledge of Drupal. Having selected Drupal, it meant for us that we had to buy and maintain a virtual machine for running that Drupal instance, and also set up a custom database in that same machine. Our website, of course, it included our homepage, vehicle listing, which is actually, you can see the prices and the available vehicles, and the vehicle page, which contains all the details of each vehicle, and the blog. So basically, it was all-in-one solution for our website. Now, after 1 year that I had joined also the company, we had a big internal discussion if Drupal was the way to go forward. Our biggest concern is that although initially the website was pretty easy and Drupal covered all our requirements, when complexity, when more business requirements were coming, we started to see a complexity increase in the development time. That means in order to implement something simple using, for example, some other framework, it would take us, I think it was double or 3 times the time to implement it, for example, in Nuxt or in React.js. For those of you who don't know, in general, Drupal theming is quite difficult, although it's pretty diverse and you can do a lot of things. There are some simple cases that it can be really hard to get it right, especially if you have to optimize your CSS for mobile and for desktop.
Since I joined the company, the initial developer that was working with us had decided to move on to other projects. So internally, we didn't have anyone knowing Drupal or know how to maintain the Drupal. And that posed a really big issue for us because we had to search through the, endless counts of documents. In some cases, even look into the code to decide how to solve a specific issue. Another thing that we ended up realizing is that it was really hard in Greece, at least, to find good developers. And our internal front-end teams were not actually experts in Drupal. They were focusing on more newer technologies like Vue or Laravel or Go. So it was difficult for them to switch back and forth between fixing a CSS issue in Drupal, which has a specific way of doing things, and doing the same thing in Vue or Laravel. Now, so we sat up with a team back then, and we wrote down what we wanted to do with our websites. The first thing that we decided was that we want to keep the blog in Drupal. Drupal is doing it really, really well, and there was no reason of migrating that to any other platform or even create our own custom CMS for that. One other requirement that we had was that the transition to our new website should be done gradually over a period of a few months, 3 or 6 months. What I mean by that, the idea was to migrate partially each page and be able to deploy that page at any time. That gives you flexibility of moving fast without having to wait, I don't know, maybe 2 months or 3 months to be able to deploy your full website. That also gives us the ability to find bugs and really fast and fix them. One of the things that we wanted also to do was to have a set of static pages. And the reason for that is that static pages are better for SEO reasons, Google bots, and also for performance. I will explain later why static pages are better, for example, from single-page applications. We wanted to support new CSS frameworks like Bootstrap and Tailwind. I think Drupal, without being an expert, was supporting Bootstrap, but it didn't support Tailwind, and we needed to be able to minimize our CSS output. Finally, we wanted to create an API. The content was coming from Drupal. We created a transition API inside Drupal, but we realized if we wanted to have more validations, if we were able to have more flexibility, the best thing to do was to create our own API. So for that reason, we had to create an internal mini CMS for our vehicles and provide that to our front end and to our website so they can render correctly our vehicles. Finally, which is a big issue for me, at least based on experience, it would be ideal if we had to do minimal server setup, maintenance, and upgrades, especially when you have to do with something like your website, which is kind of static pages or HTML. It would be nice if we didn't have to maintain all this over a period of the next couple of years. Now, for the evaluation, after we gathered all the requirements, what we did, we decided to research 3 possible outcomes. The first one is to do what is called server-side rendering. That means that the request is coming to your servers, and the server is reading the HTML, returning the HTML to your customer. The second thing was client-side rendering, which is called a single-page application. What happens basically is your servers are sending JavaScript, and the JavaScript is generating HTML in your client's browser. And the final thing, as I mentioned before, was to explore a little bit the static HTML pages. I know that creating static HTML pages, it can sound a little bit old school, something that comes from 2000 or 2005. But I strongly believe that they are building static HTML pages removes a lot of the overhead of modern systems, even generating from server-side or client-side. Now, evaluating the server-side rendering. Our initial discussion was, can we do that in Laravel? Because we already had deployed Laravel instance in our infrastructure. Can we modify the existing Laravel to generate HTML pages? What we decided after a lot of discussion and a lot of argument with our team, we ended up realizing that Laravel might not be a good solution, especially having in mind that we wanted to migrate from Laravel to Go. And Laravel was actually one of the frameworks that we decided that we didn't want to keep to maintain for the near future. Of course, we did have the internal know-how, and we knew that the Laravel was supporting HTML templates using the Blade template engine. But Laravel, on the other hand, can be resource demanding because it's running on top of PHP, which means that it consumes a little bit more CPU or RAM to run the same type of software. In some cases, Laravel can be a little bit tricky using external CSS frameworks. You have to set them properly so you can deploy them in a safe way. And finally, one of the disadvantages is, as mentioned before, is that we had to scale our infrastructure to cope for the traffic of rendering our website. The second option that we decided to look into was create a Node.js server, which we knew how to do it. But again, it was a really nice solution. It was one of the solutions that actually we decided to think about it, to give it some more thought. But again, it has the complexity of maintaining and scaling your staging and production systems. And what I mean by that is that you have to maintain a staging environment and a production environment, and you need to update them regularly in order to cope with the changes in the frameworks and the changes in the codes and the way that your development teams need to work. So Node.js was in our top list for hosting our new website or generating our new website. Now, the next thing that we decided to look into was client-side rendering or single-page applications. While the UX for that is pretty great for users, and we had the knowledge for how to create that, our biggest downside and deal breaker was that single-page applications can have issues with bots and with search engine optimization. Like Google and Bing and a lot of other searches claim that they support single-page applications. We weren't sure if that was actually true, and if it would provide a negative impact to our search engine optimization and how well we performed for Google and Bing and other search engines. So we decided to not go with the client-side rendering and not select the single-page application. The final thing that we decided to look into was static HTML pages. And while that was a great option, for us, it wasn't easy actually to be able to retrieve data using a static HTML and embed the data into the web page, not make an asynchronous call to our web servers, get the data back and render into screen. We wanted the data to be inside our web page. And one of the developers in our team provided the idea that Nuxt.js was actually a good option for generating static pages because they provide the ability to generate static pages. What they do is you can create APIs inside the code and manipulate your data and generate static HTML during build time. That means that it was providing the ability to call our APIs, get the data, and generate the HTML on the fly during the build process. Of course, deployment was an issue, and especially one of the biggest issues that we had is that we had to maintain a different infrastructure to be able to test features and bugs, meaning that we wanted to be able to test one feature as it's developed, and when it was ready, we would be able to merge it in staging. That means that in order to be able to have that functionality, we had to create all the infrastructure to create a separate, from a branch or from a Git branch to create a specific deployment for specific features. So in order to test it, get approval from QA, and finally deploy it into staging and production. Now, as we narrowed down to Node.js and Nuxt.js as a selection for building our new website, we took a look in Cloudflare, and that comes from that idea came from one of our external customers, external developers, that said that it was a really nice idea to evaluate Cloudflare pages. For those of you who don't know, Cloudflare pages is a way for Cloudflare to host your HTML or your JavaScript code. It means that they provide, in a simpler terms, they provide an Nginx that receives requests and sends back files to the client browser. Now, that's the easier or the stripped down version of what Cloudflare pages does. So we decided to look into the Cloudflare pages. We saw first that Nuxt.js is supported fully. So it was able to build our web service, build our website, and deploy it to Cloudflare pages. Second of all, Cloudflare supports Git integration. It means that they are able to, when you push a new branch or when you push a new commit, it takes the code and on the fly, it builds that new commit, a new branch, and automatically deploys it. So you are able, that is given from Cloudflare, and you are able to access that feature or that branch. As I mentioned, it provides preview URLs. It means that if you push a branch, you are able to review that branch because Cloudflare provides a specific URL for that specific branch. So if you access that, you will see only that branch and nothing else. One additional thing that it also supports was custom domains. So we were able to support like domains like my.instacar.gr or www.instacar.gr. It provides the ability to configure environment variables. If we wanted to configure differently the staging environment or the feature branch compared to the main branch, we were able to do it through environment variables. And I will provide a small overview, if I have the time afterwards, how Cloudflare works, to give you a little bit an overview of the things that I mentioned here. Of course, it runs at the edge. It means that your code is deployed near your customers, and we are able to have really fast access to our web page. It provides rollback. If a deployment, if the generation of our web page or of a specific commit creates an issue, we are able easily from Cloudflare pages to roll back to the previous version, right? It provides caching for free, which is what Cloudflare started as a company, and it provides it out of the box. It has a redirect system, and I will get back. I will mention one of the issues with the redirect system. One of the main issues in general is when you create a new page, or we change the name of a vehicle to another because we had the typo. You have to be able to redirect the old URL to the new URL in order not to use traffic through your website. Also, it provides support for zero trust. As I mentioned before, zero trust is a really nice and easy system which is in the place of VPNs. It can lock your websites and provide access only to selected individual or selected teams. That means that you can have some private or closed or secured versions of your websites, and you can have only public what you want to have in public. Finally, Cloudflare provides also what is called a Langler CLI. It gives the option of running your website locally as if it was running in Cloudflare's servers. And I will explain in the next slide why that is really important. Now, what is actually different from what I have seen from other cloud providers is that Cloudflare provides the ability through a website, through your codes, through your code, to set up what we call workers or functions. You can think of them as Lambda functions that they do some specific things. And why that is important? Cloudflare can trap that request coming from your website. You can modify that request, and you can redirect that request to another system, get the response back, and provide it back to your customer as if it was coming from the same URL, right? That function system is also path-based. You can say specific URLs, HTTP URLs or API requests to be handled in a different way. So you can create a path and you can say /API/Vena will go to that server, /API/whatever can go to another server. And that gives you the ability to redirect your services, your request to specific microservices. The additional thing, which is in our case, provides us the ability to gradually migrate our website, is that Cloudflare Workers, through the functionality, provides what is called a middleware, which you can see here. The middleware can trap the request, and you can, based on the path or based on some specific criteria, you can redirect the request to another system inside your infrastructure. In our case, what we did is that we said only these URLs will be served by the Nuxt.js application, and the other URLs, which you can see here, will be served by the Drupal. That gives us the ability of moving page by page to our new system and redirect the old pages, existing pages, to the Drupal website. So we moved one page, we added to the API path, so Nuxt was returning that one page, and then all the other pages were coming from Drupal. And as we moved page by page to our Nuxt, we removed that functionality from our Drupal. And that creates us the ability to have something that can be done gradually. Now, you all might think that this might be the best solution ever, but well, it's not exactly that. We had some issues that I will mention in the next slides, and I will try to explain as much as possible. First of all, the static pages, as I said, they embedded the content, right? They embedded the content from our API. That means that we had to either on demand or periodically rebuild our website. If a vehicle changed the price, we have to rebuild the website to incorporate that price. Okay, that means that we have on demand or periodically be able to generate again the static web pages from Nuxt.js. Redirecting URLs, as I mentioned before, fixing a type or changing URLs can hurt your SEO or your traffic through your website. Drupal was handling that redirect internally, so we had through Cloudflare to set up some redirect logic, or even adding static routes to our new routes, and that can be actually a really pain. Next issue was that when we started, we used the Nuxt.js version 2, which is currently not maintained. That means that we have at some point to move on to version 3 in order to be able to get all the latest technology and even bug fixes. Cloudflare is a dependency. Outages do happen, although Cloudflare for the last 1.5 years, it's pretty solid. There are some cases that actually we had outages, and in one case, we also had slow responses for our websites. And finally, our API can actually cause issues during that build process. But Cloudflare actually can hide that complexity, can hide those issues, and give us the time to fix those issues as fast as possible. Another two things is that environment variables are not supported for all branches. It has two types of variables: the main branch and the preview branch. So in that case, if we would like a feature branch to hit a specific development infrastructure or a microservice, we had to build the infrastructure to hit that specific instance that contained the bug fix or a new functionality or whatever. And finally, in order to wrap up my presentation, logging can be a really pain. You have to move to the enterprise plan for Cloudflare, which is really expensive. But up to now, we didn't have any major issues that we had to solve using logging. Now, what are the 3 next steps that we would like to take? As I mentioned before, we would like to migrate to Nuxt.js version 3, and the added value of that is that version 3 of Nuxt.js runs on the edge. It means that it can do server-side rendering through Cloudflare without having our own servers. We have to build a better redirect logic. It means that we have our backend needs to handle changes and URLs or typos and things like that and inform Cloudflare of those changes without us having to do any manual work. And finally, we would like to improve the performance using key value. Cloudflare has a key value store similar to a Redis that you can use, and it's pretty free coming with your workers and pages, or even use an R2 storage to save, to provide access to our vehicles and the data of our vehicles. And that's it for me. I will see some comments, I think. I will ask Spiridon. Spiridon says that, why did we choose? Yes, why did we choose Laravel? Actually, we didn't choose Laravel. It was chosen by the developers that were before me. So basically, we inherited the legacy from Laravel. If we started today, most probably we would use Node.js or maybe Python Django, which is some of my personal favorites. I think that's it. I cannot see any other questions. So